How y'all doing? Tonight we're going to make some fried pork chops, a little bit of rice and gravy. We're going to go ahead and start out. I'm going to marinate my pork chops in some buttermilk with some spices. And that's always a good way to get them started out. I've got some, let me zoom in a little bit here so you can see. There we go. Alright. What I've got is some of these thinner cut pork chops over here. Center cut, probably about maybe a half-inch thick or so, and got a little measuring cup. I've got about 8 ounces of buttermilk here, just about a cup of buttermilk. I'm going to put that in. Measuring cup, more than a cup would be just fine. Got some Louisiana hot sauce. Add some of that to it. A few shakes of that. Probably about a tablespoon or so, maybe a little bit more. It doesn't have to be exact at all. I got some Lea & Perrins, just Worcestershire sauce. Put some of that in there. Probably about a teaspoon in it. So I'm going to stir this about for a second. Got some Slappy Mama over here. I might just put a little bit out on there. I want to put plenty of Slappy Mama on the pork chops. Well, I've got about 4 in this little Pyrex pan here. I'm just going to cover the pork chops here with this marinade. This is also going to help the batter stick to them. Bring you a little bit closer here so you can really see how I got them here. Let's see. Out of the way. You can look and see I've just over the pork chops. I've just kind of filled the tray up right there. Just get them marinating like that. Leave them sitting in there for about 20 minutes. Okay, one of the first things we're going to do while we still got about 5 more minutes when I marinate. I've got probably about 2 cups of flour here in this is just a little Pyrex pie pan here. I'm going to season that flour. Got a teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of paprika, a tablespoon of black pepper, a tablespoon of Slap Your Mama, and some of this adobo seasoning. I kind of like it, but about a teaspoon of it. Go ahead and put that in that flour. You can just stir that around with your hands there. But you want to get that mixed in. Because this is where you can get a lot of your seasoning from your crust, but also get a lot of seasoning from that little marinade right there. That'll help to stick this crust on. So just mix that in. Don't put a whole lot of seasoning in here, because like I said, you will get some seasoning from the crust, but if you just overload it with seasoning, you're really just wasting a lot of seasoning to burn. So go ahead and get that flour seasoned up and stir it up, and then we'll start constructing our fry station. Okay, to make a fry station, you got to have a couple things. First off, you've got your meat and your wet ingredient, just like the milk. Then you've got your flour little station, then you've got a rack, and this is your wet or your raw rack. This is where you're going to set your meat after it's floured. Let that batter just kind of stick to it. And after that, you got your cast iron skillet over here. Got about 1/2 inch oil in it, and then we have a rack we put on after it's fried, and this will let any of the excess oil drain. But you got to have all that set up before you even get started. Okay, now while we're waiting on everything, I'll go ahead and get our rice started. Get about 2 cups of water in there, with a cup of rice. Pour that in there, and I'm going to turn it down. I'm going to let that simmer for about 20 minutes. Alright, let's go ahead and get started on our battering now. And like I said, I like to do this battering station right here by the sink, that way, because it's a big mess in, you can clean it up. What you want to have when you're battering stuff, you want to have basically what you call a wet hand and a dry hand. This is a hand you're going to reach into your wet marinade and everything with, and this hand you're going to try to just deal with the flour. So let's go ahead and we'll put the first little coat of batter on here, because we're going to do this in 2 coats. Just take it out of there, do that like that, and see, just put a light coat, put it over here to our drying rack. Okay, you're not worried about getting much of a coat on there, just a light coat this first time through. Just flip, put over there to the drying rack. Repeat this with all 4 chops. But see, you don't want to get little globs of the milk here in your batter, because that'll make it do up and it won't be good. Just a little bit hard to work with. You don't want it to get all doughy on you. Okay. Do it like that. And what we did here is we put a base coat on here, because this is going to make actually more batter stick here in the end. So we're going to go back again. We're going to repeat the steps. We're going to put this back in the wet batter. Okay. Let it drip dry for a second. Okay. Then we'll go back to the dry batter. Now this time we'll get a fairly decent coat on there. Okay. And if you wanted to, at this time where they are down in here, and I might do it to 1, you could put a little bit extra seasoning on there. I really don't suggest that though, because it's liable to burn. You don't want to burn that oil. So go ahead and get your final coat. Like I said, this is the wet hand, and I hadn't been using the dry hand. It caught me, busted me on that one. So see, it's a lot easier when you have a hand. See how this hand's all clogged up? All clogged up? You don't want that. See, it's a lot easier if you have a drier hand to mess with it once it's in the flour. See, that's perfectly battered chop there. So I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of these and see if I can get a little knuckle up here to turn this camera off. Okay, now I got all 4 of these battered. Now's the time I can go ahead and got all this stuff all over my hands. Go ahead and clean my station off a little bit while these start to dry. Now, I went ahead and turned my pan up to about medium-high heat. I'm going to let that grease start heating up. Okay, now I can tell we're ready to fry. I've got the vegetable oil in my cast iron skillet. I poured it, these are about a 1/2 inch thick pork chops, so I poured about a 1/2 inch thick. I sit here and watch it on about medium-high heat, and you see when the top just starts rippling, that's when it's about ready. And the way you can test the oil is if you drop a little piece of crumb or something in there. Just want to see what happens. Actually, that was one I dropped earlier. See if it starts really sizzling like that. You know that it's ready to put your pork chops in. So I'm going to go ahead with this first chop. We're just going to pick it up, drop it on, ease in just like that, and that's perfect right there. Perfect. Okay. Number 2. And we don't want to overcrowd the pan, so I think we can get 3 in there. We've got 1 more. We'll let that one in there right now. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to set my timer for 3 minutes. I'm going to go 3 minutes on this side because of the thickness of these. Then I'm going to flip them and we'll go on the other side. Okay, it's been about 3 minutes here. So go ahead and flip these. That beautiful brown, oh man, it was great. Beautiful crust we have. Okay, just stab to keep these essence from bottom of this grease spattering on it. It will burn. Okay, I'm going to set the timer again for another 3 minutes on this side. I'm going to check them though every about 30 seconds to make sure they're not burning. Okay, we've been another 3 minutes on this side. I'm going to go ahead and take these off. Put them over here on this cooling rack. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay. We'll get those out of the pan. I'm going to put this one last raw one I have in. Okay. And we'll go ahead and let that guy go for 3 minutes on this side. We'll do the same thing with this one. Then once we're done, I'll come back to you. We'll get started on a great little gravy. Meanwhile though, another really helpful tip I was going to tell you. See how I put those paper towels underneath that rack where those raw pork chops were? Go ahead and clean that up. See, I already cleaned up over here where they were in the first place. If you keep on cleaning when you're frying, step by step, it's a lot easier because it is a messy job, but it's a lot easier to clean up if you do it in stages while you're doing the process. Alright, now we're going to work on that gravy. What we did, poured most of the oil out here. I left a little bit in the bottom of the pan. got most of the black stuff out of there. I left some, that's going to give it some flavor. What I do, I got a couple tablespoons of butter. Put that in there. So we still got this pan on about medium-high heat. I probably turn it down a little bit. Let that butter just work in this pan. What I'm going to do first here, basically, we're just making a roux. We're just going to cook some flour. Of course, you got that some flour in there, it's already cooked. You see all that brown stuff in there. Okay? I've got probably about a couple tablespoons of flour. Go ahead and scatter some of this in there, about half of it. So, well, that was all of it, 2 tablespoons of flour. I'm going to stir this around. And see, it's going to get dark pretty quick. I'm going to turn this heat down just a little bit. So it's just really cooking this flour. This cast iron pan, it really holds the heat. Alright, and basically we'll just treat this like a roux. We'll stir it around here for a minute or so. You just cannot stop stirring this. I mean, this will burn in a second. Ooh, and it's hot. I just got a little bitty piece on me, and it's like molten lava, I tell you. Okay, so we kind of cooked that flour. Now I got a cup of milk here. And this is what I got to start out with. Ease a little bit of that in there. Keep going with it. Go ahead and put it all in there. We'll scrape all that stuff up from the bottom. This is going to thicken up quick, quick, quick. What you want to do is go ahead and turn the heat off. That pan's got plenty of heat in there to hold it. So we keep stirring this, and it's going to thicken that milk up quick like. You just won't believe it. That roux, it will thicken this milk up. I'm going to keep stirring it and leave it, you know, on this line. We'll have a low heat. But see, it's already, as soon as it starts to bubble, it's starting to thicken. As soon as it starts to thick, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hit it with a little bit of little black pepper, which you don't want to stop stirring this really either. I just want to put that black pepper in there. And go ahead and look at it. It's just fluffy, nice gravy. Really nice consistency there. What I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and take this off the heat. I'm going to set it up aside by my sink, or if I had another burner over here, I'd set it there. But you want to get this off the heat so it don't burn, but you want to keep stirring. Okay, came over here back to this gravy, and I got it off the stove. I want it to be so hot. Put me a piece of that pork chop on here with this rice. We'll go ahead and get some of this gravy. And that's gravy what it's all about, I tell you. Just ladle it over that rice, and over that pork chop just like that. And there's nothing finer. This is a real southern style country dish here. Fried pork chops, deep fried pork chops, rice, and homemade gravy. And I'll tell you what, we'll take this, I put a little bit of Sloppy Mom on it. Let's give it a little bit of flavor. And it is awesome. That is a great, great dish. Real southern style home cooking.